Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Canon Chatter TV. As always, with me, Stephen, and my ever-present co-host, G. How are you, G?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I think you can tell from the look on my face that I'm not my usual smiley self. But yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. But other than that, I'm pretty good. How are you? You good?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I'm a lot calmer right now than I was on Saturday night, but we'll get into that in a wee minute. I think, do you know what? We have a lot to get through tonight. We want to talk about, obviously, the match. We want to talk about the squad, Arteta, the Cronkies, the whole works. So I think the best thing for us to do is roll the intro and get started. Yeah?
Yep.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
So yeah, as we say, it's a busy night ahead of us. Quite a bit to get through. But first of all, take out the football. Have you had a decent Easter?
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. It's been really nice to kind of, relax with the family. Obviously, like most people, around the country, I've been off since Friday. So, Good Friday, the weekend, and obviously bank holiday Monday today. So yeah, it's been really nice to kind of just take some time out, switch off, and just kind of relax, put on a couple of movies and just kind of laze around the house, really. So yeah, me and the family have had a good Easter. How about you and your family? What have you been up to?
Yeah, good. Well, as you know, I was chopping down trees for the last week out in my back garden. I finally got that finished on Saturday, and then just yesterday and today, it's a bit of family time, with the kids and Easter egg hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Great fun.
How many Easter eggs have you devoured?
Me, not a one. Not
wow,
a one.
good.
I have not had a single bit of chocolate this weekend.
Oh gosh.
Do you know what? You know how hard I'm trying at the minute to try and get weight shifted. I have ballooned over lockdown, so I'm working really hard to try and get it off. So yeah, I have not touched a bit of chocolate this weekend.
Oh, I admire your determination because I've lost count how much chocolate I've eaten. I don't know whether it's I would say I'm not really a chocolate fan. I don't know whether it was the Arsenal performance, but yeah, particularly today, I haven't stopped eating.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we want to get into it. Firstly, thank you to anybody who's joined us live. Make sure and interact with us as much as you want tonight. You will hear some opinions you probably won't agree with. You'll hear opinions you'll totally agree with, and feel free to share your own opinions. That's what this is all about. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say, not just what me and G have to say. It hopefully will be positive, but realistically, there is going to be a lot of sort of negative and not bad feeling, but just annoyance with a lot of stuff that's going on right now. So yeah, make sure and have your say, get involved, and yeah, we'll read out as many comments as we can. The interaction's been really good lately, so let's keep that going. So we'll start off with the team that we lined up with on Saturday night. So we started off Leno in goal. He went with Chambers at right back, which I think we were all a bit shocked with. Then Holding came in for David Luiz, who we found out on Friday had an injury and has actually since undergone minor knee surgery. And they're expecting him to be out for about 4 weeks, hoping that he'll be back for the last 1 or 2 weeks of the season. And obviously, if we get to the Europa League final, that would be good to have him there. Then alongside Holding, there was Gabriel and Tierney. In midfield, he went for Ceballos and Xhaka. Or sorry, not Xhaka, Ceballos in place of Xhaka, because Xhaka was not well. Partey, then we have Aubameyang on the left, Pepe on the right in place of Saka, who I think passed the fitness test, but Arteta decided not to take the risk. Odegaard in the number 10 and Lacazette up front. How did you feel when you seen the team?
To be honest, given the squad and the players that Arteta at this present time had, kind of available to him, we can sit here on our preview shows and we can kind of say who we think would play and so forth. But to be honest, I thought it was a strong enough, as strong a team he could put out given the injuries. We kind of knew Smith Rowe wouldn't play. We knew Saka wouldn't play. High chance Xhaka wouldn't. We knew David Luiz was out. So other than Chambers at right back, I wasn't too surprised at the lineup, and I thought to myself, well, given the injuries that we kind of heard about before the match, I thought it was a good team. I thought it was kind of like the best team that he could have actually put out. So I probably would have gone with Cedric myself in place of Chambers, but for some reason or another, which I probably think we'll go through, he just can't even seem to get a game for love nor money. And then I'm not a massive fan of Ceballos, and I think it was pretty obvious why, given the performance in that match. I probably would have gone with El Nene, but then saying that, given the performance that the team had, he probably would have played even worse. So on reflection, it was as good a team I think he could have put out given the injuries. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, we did the preview show the other night, and both you and Damien had, well, you had Cedric at right back, Damien had Bellerin at right back, and I said invariably it's going to end up being Chambers then. Do you know what? Chambers had a good second half against West Ham, but that was it. He was poor in the first half, so I don't know how he warranted his place, why Cedric isn't playing. It really baffles me, and these are the sorts of things we'll touch on when we talk about Arteta. Some of the decisions and some of the players that he plays, I just don't get it. When I heard Xhaka was out, I mean, again, I said on Friday night to you both that neither of you opted for Ceballos in midfield. For me, I said I thought Ceballos, that was his best position, and I thought that's who he would go with, and he did. And boy, did I make a mistake saying that, because Ceballos was so poor. I haven't seen him play a worse game. Pepe, you can understand Pepe coming in the right for Saka, and Pepe is a great player when he wants to be, and when he gets the space. Aubameyang has had such a hit and miss season, and as I said the other day, it's Gervinho. Unfortunately, at the minute, he is channeling his inner Gervinho. I'm playing like him, so evening, Buster. Thanks for joining us again. Buster, while you're on, just drop us a wee comment there. What you thought of Leno's performance, because I know you're a bit of a keeper expert. And then obviously Lacazette up front. I mean, you said yourself that the other night, Lacazette is the best option at the minute. He was kind of undroppable for the way he'd been playing, but he just didn't turn up. Didn't turn up at all. I think it's like, looking at the team, you kind of thought, well, it's not bad. Holding usually turns up against the big clubs. But he didn't turn up. Chambers was the only thing for me that was sort of questionable. Yeah. The rest of it, I probably would have picked the same team based on the injuries and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I can't fault Arteta's lineup in that sense. We'll come on to it a wee bit more, as I say, in a couple of minutes when we talk about Arteta. But that, as I say, for that system, that's the team I would have picked based on the available personnel. So, well, with the exception of Chambers, I probably would have played Cedric. That's just my preference. So overall, I mean, I went into it thinking I wasn't as confident we would get the win. Like I'd said the other night when I said 2-1, I kind of thought maybe we'll do well to scrape a draw. I almost had seen it and went, well, we may be lucky to get out of this with a 1-goal defeat. So I wasn't overly confident. But I didn't expect to see what I witnessed. Yeah. Which was just flat, boring, dull football. Just no life, no passion in it. And it angered me so much. Buster, a couple of injuries and exposes lack of quality and depth in our squad. It does, absolutely. Mark, hi guys, enough Danny Ceballos, awful. Absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, I know we'll talk about this more in a wee sec about the actual match itself, but what I noticed so much over the weekend was people saying about how we miss Xhaka. And I am not by any means Xhaka's biggest fan, as you well know, but we did. We missed him. And that, unfortunately, is a sad indictment of our midfield. It's not that Xhaka is a particularly great player. It's the fact that the rest of our midfield options are so poor that we miss Xhaka. You know, and that really is a sad state of affairs. I personally believe Xhaka will be away in the summer. You know, I do think we're going to replace him. But you can understand why, you know, everybody talks about, oh, Arteta begged him to stay. Yeah, I think Arteta did beg him to stay for now because it was the best that we had right now. And it annoys me so much that is the best we have to offer is Xhaka.
Yeah, for me, I think what was, you know, what is so, and I think you can all tell just how kind of deflated I am as I'm kind of speaking about this match or just listening to you, Stephen. I agree with everything you said. What is really scary is that, you know, you take Saka out of this side and you take Smith Rowe out of this side, who, let's face it, before Christmas wasn't even in the side. And we literally looked absolutely toothless going forward. It was almost as if they had been told, do not make any attempt to win this game. Just keep the score down. That was literally the way it felt to me, is that at no point did we seem like we were threatening, did we seem like we wanted to win the game. And the problem for me is that we were just poor in every single department of the pitch. The defending, I don't want to pinpoint players at this stage because the whole performance was rubbish, in my opinion. But the defending was awful. The midfield was weak. And the strikers or the forward players, they were just completely toothless. So across the pitch, from the back all the way up to the front, it's like they had no idea. It's like they had no passion, no drive to win the game. It was almost as if, you know, let's just get this one out of the way. And let's just concentrate on Thursday night. It was awful. It was so bad, you know. And we will often sit here, and I will try and think of the positives. But even after, you know, a day or two of reflecting on this game, looking back at the highlights, I'm looking at it thinking there was nothing positive about this performance. There was literally nothing. At one stage, I think we were about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes into the match, and the stat came up, and it was like we hadn't had a single shot on goal, not a single attempt. It wasn't even a shot. We hadn't a single attempt. And I'm thinking, we're playing at home against a Liverpool side, don't get me wrong, who have world-class players, but are a complete shadow of their former selves from last season. Teams have taken games to them and actually, you know, gone close to winning them or even turned them over on many occasions, which is why they're in the position they're in. And they're not actually, you know, even within a chance of regaining the Premiership. So you just would have thought, you know, with all what we had to play for, you know, and the way Liverpool have been playing, that it wasn't as much. It wouldn't be even as bad if we lost the game. But it was the manner in which we lost the game. We just didn't turn up, and we didn't even play. And it was horrible. It was horrible.
Absolutely. It was, you know, it was pathetic. It was soul destroying to watch. Evening, GK. Thanks for joining us. Mark, no leaders in the team, especially at the back, holding as a squad player for me. Yeah, well, we'll come on to that in a wee bit, Mark, because we are going to sort of run through the squad a wee bit in a few minutes. Yeah, I mean, it was so flat, it was so lifeless, so passionless. You know, you just thought to yourself, you know, none of these players seem to be bothered playing for the shirt. You know, and I always go back to that Tony Adams quote of play for the name on the front of the shirt and they'll remember the name on the back. And not one of them played for the name on the front of the shirt the other night. Even in the first half, even Tierney didn't look at it.
No,
you know, before
none
he
of them
came off
did.
his injury. And that looks like potentially he's out for the rest of the season now.
Yep.
It just, I'll tell you how bad it actually was, right? I have a friend on Twitter, and I'm not going to mention their name because this friend is they're one of the ultra positive Arsenal fans that no
Mhm.
matter what happens, they will support them. Support every little aspect of it. They love every player. They want every player to stay at the club. They'd rather we kept every player and just signed some more and had a massive squad. Not that we can do that, but that's the sort of attitude, and they're super, super positive about everything. They will find the positives in every bad thing that happens. And I was talking to them yesterday, and this is what they had to say. I'm not positive about any of them today, trust me. I can take a loss if they work their arses off, play their hearts out and show passion, fight and determination. Arteta took a lot of the blame, or took all of the blame, sorry, but I don't think he should. He didn't tell them not to he didn't tell them not to put in any effort at all, and didn't tell them to ignore his instructions. He said it was unacceptable, and he is spot on. All 11 starters disrespected the manager, supporters, and the badge, in my opinion, last night. I also agree with him saying there are no excuses. ESR being injured shouldn't matter when we have Odegaard. Saka injured shouldn't matter when we have Pepe.
Mhm.
I'm pissed off and hurt with a lot of them. I dropped a lot of them too, but would start the 3 subs in the positions they came on for. I just want and expect them to put in a shift and work hard. Didn't see any of that last night. I have no positives whatsoever to take from it or say about it. And that's coming from an ultra positive Arteta in every player in kind of person is coming out and saying that. And that just goes to show how bad that performance was. It was the worst I've seen them play since Arteta came along. And there's nothing more you can really say. First half, we did well to hold it to 0-0. Ceballos was terrible. And yet, we didn't actually concede until after Ceballos came off in the second half. And they brought on Jota. And they kept on, obviously, Salah, Firmino, and Mane, and added, Diego Jota to that. And it's a formidable strike force.
Yeah.
And you always knew Liverpool were going to turn up and have a far better game. You always knew it. So, do you want to talk us through the goals? Because, to be perfectly honest, Ryan, similar to the City performance, absolutely. To be perfectly honest, I don't even remember them that much because I've kind of blocked it out of my head.
Yeah, so to be fair, going in, it was weird because going in at half time 0-0, even at that point, it was more of a relief rather than, okay, we've done all right, we've kept it, we've done all right, we're still in this game. For me, it didn't even feel like we were in the game at all. And when it got to halftime, I just thought to myself, well, silver lining is that we haven't conceded. And I thought, given the fact that we hadn't conceded, we would come out second half, Arteta would do his whole team talk thing, and the performance there would be a lift in the performance, but there wasn't. We went 1-0 down, I believe it was like the 64th minute, or something like that. And I've got to say, it was a fantastic ball. That was pinged into the area from Trent. But for me, you've got Jota rising at the far post, beating 2 defenders, two men who are taller than him in the air. You could say it was the movement. You could say, his movement was good, his leap was good. But for me, I'm not expecting, 2 players that when you look at Chambers, he was playing right back, but he is naturally a centre back, and neither him or Holding, whatever reason it was, couldn't get to the ball before him. And I'm no goalkeeping expert. And do you know what I mean? I'm not a goalkeeping expert, but I just thought to myself, it was a good header in terms of like he got a lot behind it, but I kind of just felt even Leno could have done better.
It was straight at him.
Yeah, I just thought he got his hands behind it, and it almost like he just punched it into the top of the net himself. So wasn't very impressed with the first goal. The second goal was when, and I don't want to get onto Gabriel. I don't, because I feel like Gabriel has been for most part this season a really solid centre back for us, and I think he will become a great player at Arsenal. He's still quite young in terms of centre backs, but ball was played over the top. It was him and Salah, kind of running together, shoulder to shoulder. And I think what he did was he just wanted to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. So he kind of committed himself to the slide tackle. The thing about Salah is he's a very, very clever forward player. He stayed on his feet. You know, he took the ball past Gabriel. And at that point, Gabriel couldn't do anything because it would have been a penalty. You know, if Gabriel had breathed on the back of Salah's neck too hard, Salah would have gone over at that point. So he kind of just had to say, look, you know, do your thing. And that's what Salah did. He waited until the last moment. He saw Leno's legs wide open and he just popped it through. And that's 2-0. I don't know if you want to come in or do you want me to just run through the third goal so we get it over with?
You just run through because I couldn't care less.
Yeah. And then the third goal, again, it wasn't the best ball by Gabriel. He seemed to have all the time in the world. He kind of chipped it out to the left. I think it was supposed to be. I think it was Cedric at that point who was on the pitch. It was short. It was too short. It was nowhere near Cedric. It was intercepted, and then the rest is history. You know, I think Salah popped it into the box. Mane looked like he either cushioned. To be honest, I don't know whether he cushioned it or whether he lost control of it, because at that point it had goal written all over it, and there was Jota to kind of just bang it into the net. So it was not good. You know, it was not good for me. Liverpool are a great side going forward, but nonetheless, you know, all of the goals for me, a better team. Liverpool wouldn't have scored, you know, any three of them. Don't get me wrong, the Trent cross was pinpoint. So maybe I'm being a little bit unfair on the two defenders, but the other two goals for me were, I wouldn't necessarily say individual mistakes, but it wasn't the best from our defenders. So yeah, pretty disappointing in terms of defending in that match.
Yeah, I mean overall, say it was a poor match. For me, the most entertaining thing about that match was Stuart Atwell's haircut.
Yeah,
quite clearly his wife had decided to cut his hair in the afternoon.
Yeah,
that actually entertained me more than any of the football did.
Yeah,
so a couple of comments coming in, guys. If you have any comments about the match quickly before we move on from it, drop them in now. So obviously Buster had said these players have put performances like this in under more than one manager, massive squad overhaul needed. Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to come on to that in a few minutes. GK saying to at Buster's Off Topic podcast, a few people I talked to earlier told me we had elite forwards and they're good enough for top four. In theory, yeah. In practice, no. GK again. Thank you. Fans yesterday talking as if Gabriel wasn't the best player in the game. The first half, just the Salah mistakes. Then fans, wasn't
that is true.
Game in the first half.
That is true.
Just Salah mistakes. Then fans become reactionary and say he's not our best defender and turning into Mustafi. Yeah, absolutely. He was, and he's been our best.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? The funny thing is, I seen a stat earlier on. Of the 17 games he started, he's lost 9 of them. So we've lost 12 league games, and he's played in 9 of those. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, you know what it is with Gabriel. For me, he's a good centre back. He's a very good centre back. He has all the attributes to be a top defender. You know, he's got pace. He's strong. He's good in the air. But for me, you know, he's still relatively young. He's been bought. This is his first season at Arsenal. And I just feel as though we're looking towards him to lead that defense. And some might say, well, yeah, he's a professional footballer. You know, he's coming for big money. He should be the leader at the back. But look, you got to defend as a unit. You know, you got to defend as a unit, as a back four. You and the defenders and the goalkeeper, everybody's got to be on the same page. And at the moment, I see a lot of the time with Gabriel, I just think there's too much pressure on him, you know. He hasn't even had a transitional season. I think Gabriel could do with having somebody a bit more experienced and more of a kind of vocal leader next to him. Not necessarily somebody who's a better player than him, but just somebody who can help him, who can help organize that defense and just kind of, you know, more kind of control it. Because I think there's too much pressure on the lad.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to make the same point that, you know, with Luiz, they do seem to be our best partnership.
Yeah,
and yeah, he's far better when he's playing with David Luiz.
Yeah,
Okay, couple other ones. I agree with lots of your points, G. But there's no way Leno was at fault for the first goal. Some goalkeepers do save that, but it would be a world-class save. Fair enough.
Fair dues. I'm just angry. That's all. I'm just annoyed.
Look at the others around him. The one guy can't do the defending of the others. This is very true, and that's also part of the reason why Bellerin lets us down, because Holding has looked poor playing next to Bellerin because he's been having to cover for him as well in so many games. I want to see him and Murray though. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one too. People say you can't play two left-footed, left-sided centre defenders together. I don't see why we can't. I think we'll give it a try. I would like to see that combination and see what happens.
And positionally, Mary's quite good from what I've seen, so it could work.
Yeah. I don't rate Luis, not one bit. I want him gone.
He's the best. The thing is, he's one of the best we've got.
But he's been one of our better defenders this season. Holding is atrocious. He was getting spun. I never blamed Leno for anything in that game, to be honest. I never mentioned Leno, to be honest. Just Prem fans and Arsenal fans, fickle and reactionary. They love you one week, hate you the next. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was more us who were saying that, Leno could have done better. And, it wasn't yourself, GK. Thank you for those. Okay, so that kind of wraps that up. I don't want to spend any more time talking about that match because it pains me. If you are new to the channel, make sure and subscribe, turn on your notifications, and make sure and hit that like button. If you're enjoying our content, we do have a lot of new stuff coming. We just obviously, with the games coming thick and fast, it's all sort of preview and review shows at the minute. And one of the things we had wanted to do was a squad review, which we're going to come on to in a few minutes. We had planned to sort of do this over 2 shows, but we're going to condense it into the next sort of half hour, I reckon. But I want to talk about a couple of other people first. So the first one is these two, the Cronkies, KSE, Cronky Sports Entertainment or Empire, whatever they call it, who obviously own Arsenal Football Club now. Seen again over the weekend, a lot of people blaming them for a lack of investment and, how they've been the, head shareholders at the club for so many years and stuff. I mean, what's your opinion on the Cronkies, G?
You know what it is? It's I'll be honest with you, I don't pay a huge amount of attention to, the owners of a club, and it was something that I never really paid attention to until it kind of happened all those years ago when Abramovich came over from Chelsea, and all of a sudden this emphasis on the owner really kind of mattered. For me, it was always the manager, and it was always the squad of players. Obviously, the way football's going, the way the Premier League is, there seems to be a lot more of emphasis on who kind of owns the club, and particularly to do with the purse strings. Now, I think you can kind of correct me here that they've only been in sole ownership of the club. Is it 2 seasons, 3 seasons now?
It's 2018.
2018. So I think a lot of it, in terms of Arsenal fans saying, these guys have been at the club, 10 years or so, etc., etc. What have they done? They haven't spent money. We had a really kind of in-depth conversation about this the other day after one of our lives, and it's very clear that their emphasis in terms of spending money will should definitely shift now they are sole owners. And when I actually look at it, it's a hard one for me. I don't really have an opinion on them either way, to be honest, because I just think to myself, okay, since they've owned the club in the last 3 seasons, this pre-season we bought Gabriel, and then January we bought Partey. Season before that we bought Pepe.
Summer window we bought Partey.
Summer window Partey. When did we buy Gabriel? Was that summer as well?
That was summer as well.
Yeah. So we brought Gabriel and Partey, and I must admit, I didn't know much about Gabriel, but I thought to myself, okay, young, promising centre-back, that's the right direction we want to be moving in, getting rid of some of the older guys. Partey, top draw player in my opinion, from what I saw of him at Atletico Madrid. And I thought, wow, 45 million release clause. I thought we hadn't a prayer when I heard it was a release clause. Season before that, we spent 72 million pounds on Pepe. And I'm not going to sit here like a hypocrite and say I wasn't thrilled when Pepe signed. I was absolutely over the moon when Pepe signed. I'd followed him quite a bit playing for Lille in the French league, saw what he was doing over there, and I thought he was exactly what we needed. So if we had to just look at those three players, Pepe 72 million, Partey 45 million, Gabriel 30 million or so. That's a huge amount of money. We're talking about 150 million pounds for three players. Now, is it a fact that they're not spending enough? Or is it the fact that they are spending, but the squad is just so bad that it's actually going to take a lot longer than we hoped for Arsenal to improve as a team? So my opinion of them is kind of neither here nor there. I don't really know. I'm not really a massively business minded person. I think you could probably give me and give the fans and those watching a bit more of an insight, because I know you're a businessman yourself. But for me, this team needs huge investment. It needs huge investment this summer. I'm very skeptical that huge investment is going to come, because as an Arsenal fan, I've never really seen it. But then when I look at the last three major signings, that's big money. That is a huge amount of money that we've spent on those three players. So to be honest, the problem is we need to buy players, and we need to buy the caliber of player, across the pitch on a more consistent basis, because quite frankly, let's be honest, the team's just not good enough. We've got experienced players that are not playing to their full potential, and then we've got young players that are playing, beyond their years, which are carrying, which is basically carrying us this season. So the Cronkies, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. But all I do know is that they need to spend money, because we're not going to win anything unless we spend more money.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you're saying there about maybe I can give a better idea of a couple of things. My biggest issue and gripe about this whole thing with the Cronkies is that people are judging them since they came into the club, which was way back in like 2006, something like that. That's not how business works. They bought a percentage of the club. They wanted to buy the rest of the club. Now, people are saying, oh, well, they haven't done anything in all those years. If I want to buy a business, and at the start I buy a percentage of that business, I'm not then going to throw in my own money to make that business more valuable, to then have to spend more of my own money to buy the rest of the club or buy the rest of that business.
Makes sense.
It's counterproductive. So they have had to play the waiting game. So if anything, we can blame the shareholders who didn't sell to them quicker. I'm not saying we should, but the reality is they would have invested money sooner if they had owned the club sooner. You look at what they've done the last couple of years. I mean, they have spent a huge amount of money. Some of it has been very badly invested. And we've had some really poor investments over the years. But we're starting to see better quality players. Gabriel was a great investment.
Yep.
Partey is looking like he could be a great investment. If we can get the likes of Odegaard, that's a great investment.
Yep.
So we can only judge them on what they've done over the last couple of years since they've had sole ownership, and they have spent money. There's no doubt about it. They spent 72 million on Pepe, albeit Pepe's probably not worth 72 million, but they spent it, or they authorized the spend of that money for that player. And I fully expect, if you look at their other franchises, you look at what they did with the LA Rams, they hired a young manager and they backed him. They gave him funds to bring in, different American football players, and he got them to the Super Bowl. They lost, but he got them to the Super Bowl. They've now built this new stadium. It's financed. They're a rich family. There's no issue with money. So I would, I know you're skeptical, but I do believe we are going to see quite a bit of money spent this summer. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. That's a few of these comments here. GK, thank you. You're firing comments in here. Let's see where to start. That's because everyone, one fan is crying now about owners needing to spend because of City. They weren't saying owner investment when Abramovich took over Chelsea back in the early 2000s. So this is it. Before you bought the league, now it's ownership investment. Absolutely, it is. And the thing is, I mean, if you look at the successful clubs, Man City and Chelsea, owned by Abramovich and owned by Sheikh Mansour, they're owned by individuals. They weren't owned by a group of shareholders. So the Cronkies wanted to be the sole owners, and if they had been the sole owners for longer, we would have seen greater investment sooner. These footballing men, the Cronky hired and put into place, are poor when it comes to negotiating scouting contracts. Yeah, I mean, well, Edu's come in and got rid of the whole scouting network. He's using a stats-based system, and that worries me. It does. That Edu has now got so much control over our scouting and our recruitment. They flunked the funds entirely talking about ownership investment. You can't just spend money every summer. Look how the elite clubs build teams and look how Prem clubs build teams. Major difference. Okay.
The thing is, it's like, I think, before all, and I don't want to dwell on it too much in terms of the ownership and so forth, because like I said, it's never really massively been something I thought about. But there's no disguising the fact that Chelsea were not a force until Abramovich came over here. It's that simple, If you look at Man City, up until about until they actually started, spending huge amounts of money, they had Sean Golter up front. So let's not, deny or try to avoid the fact that money has massively propelled, a team like Chelsea into the team they are today, and a team like Man City into the kind of team that they are today. Now, I've always been in favor of, when Wenger was at the club, and he would buy players. He'd buy Anelka for 500,000. He'd sell him on for 23 million, but he'd made a star out of him. He built teams, he built that invincible team. The problem with that nowadays is I feel as though we've been on the verge in the past of where Arsenal have been on the verge of having a really strong team. And then what's kind of happened is somebody's just come in and just said, look, we're going to take that player, take that player, take that player, take that player. And money talks, the best players come into the Premier League are wanting to play for, one, a team that is challenging for the Premier League, and two, a team that can actually pay them extraordinarily sums of money. Those are two facts that we literally cannot deny. So if we as a club are going to actually challenge for the title, what Leicester City did was an anomaly. It's very unlikely that we're going to see a season like that again, where you had pretty much an average team of players in terms of ability play beyond their ability and win the league, where in a season where all the other teams had a below par season. If we want to build a squad, and we want to build a squad that's going to potentially win the Premier League and get us back into the Champions League and potentially win that, we have to spend money. And we need to spend it, not just spending money, but we need to spend it on the right players, and we need to have the right manager in charge of those players. But I don't feel, and you guys can disagree with me all you want, because everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I don't believe that Arteta can build, or any manager, because I've said it on these shows before, even about Pep Guardiola. I don't think you could bring Pep Guardiola into this Arsenal team now, and I don't think the players would play much better than what they're playing at the moment. The ability of the vast majority of this Arsenal team is not good. It's not good for the standard. It's not good for the standard we want. So at the end of the day, it's money. We need to spend money.
Yeah. Comments flying in. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. But Leicester still to identify quality. And I don't agree. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Leicester are very good at it. Yeah, there's an element of what you say. I mean, I also think that we need to use our youth system more. I mean, we have some quality youth players. We've talked about this before. We've got Balogun, we've got Aziz. These are players, and I want to see them come in now, especially over the next 8 games of this season. Our league season's done. it doesn't matter now if we finish in, 17th or we finish in 7th. It makes no odds because we're not going to get European football through the league. So I don't really care. Play some of these youth players, give them a chance. Funds have been mismanaged. We need a massive overhaul, big time. Spend at the right place. No coach in the world can save the players we have.
Yep.
7 players max. Yeah. I mean, we do need a massive overhaul. GK, I agree on the standard of the players. 90% need to go. But when you poorly invest it, you can't just be spent. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the investment has been poor. And as you mentioned, Xhaka, Mustafi, I mean, these are players that we spent big money on Mustafi was just an absolute waste. So I mean, it kind of leads on to this one, which is, and I mean, you said yourself, the manager is a big thing. Arteta, I mean, it's very much, there doesn't seem to be a middle ground for many people. It's very much Arteta in or Arteta out. And again, you guys in the chat, far in, Arteta in, Arteta out. What do you think? I mean, keeping it brief, G, what do you think? I mean, what's your opinions on Arteta right now? He's been in the job. That was his 50th league game. And, you may have seen some of the stats that, Emery had more wins and Wenger had more wins over his last 50. You can't really pay an awful lot of attention to those stats because unless they're playing the same 50 teams and it's the same players in all 50 games, you can't really judge it. Stats can be manipulated to read whatever you want them to read. But what do you make of Arteta? I mean, is he the man to lead us forward?
This question, I think, is getting harder and harder to answer. But at the same time, I think when Wenger left and we went through, we always knew that the transition was going to be hard. It was going to be a long one. So for me, I'm still very much Arteta in. And that is based on the concept that I don't believe there is a manager out there. We've had this conversation ourselves privately. I don't believe there's a manager out there that could come in with this current crop of players and do much better. Maybe slightly better, but not much better. I still believe he should be at the club. But in order for him to be at the club and in order for him to achieve or be judged more fairly, I do think that he needs financial investment from the owners.
Okay. Just before I go into my sort of opinion, Darryl, thank you for your comments. In my opinion, for me, Arteta out. For me, his subs baffle me. Some of the starting lineup baffles me. Man management has been poor. The handling of Martinelli has been poor. Buster, Arteta in, been given a poor squad, but has shown some sort of plan and discipline. Also has worked and learned under the best manager, Pep. Out there. Okay, yeah, I mean, two very different opinions there. For me, it's getting, you said it's getting harder and harder to defend Arteta. And it is. I have issues with some of the decisions he makes, some of the lineups. So we talked about it earlier on, picking Chambers at right back. I just don't get it. The guy had half a game where he played well, whereas Cedric has looked good, especially when you've got Pepe playing. Cedric plays really well with Pepe, be it on the left or the right. So why Cedric was not put in when Pepe was playing the other day, I just don't understand. Arteta has come out and he has said that this is not, the team is a long way from what he wants. So those players are sitting in that dressing room going, chances are I'm not going to be here next season. Chances are I'm not getting a game. So what's the point?
True.
What's the point in playing my heart out for this club when the likelihood is I won't be here to play for them next year? So that, I think was a wee bit naive of Arteta to say. But I think he was trying to buy himself a little more grace with the fans. These players, they're not capable. He did well last season when he changed after the international break, or not the international, the COVID break, sorry. He changed and he went to this structure playing 5 at the back. And it worked. And it got us an FA Cup, which was fantastic. And that, again, has bought him more time. But then this season he's gone to the 4-4 or 4-3-2-1 or 4-2-3-1. Sorry, and it works in certain games. But when it's not working, he's stubborn and he doesn't change it. And I think now for these last 8 games, he needs to do one of two things. He needs to start playing the youngsters and give them a chance. These players, like we mentioned already, the Ballagans, the Aziz, even, dare I say it, even throw in Reece Nelson and give him a couple of games. Play these guys. If he's not going to, then he needs to go back to the 5. He needs to play the formation that suits the players and not try to shoehorn these players into a formation that he wants to play, that he knows they're not good enough to play. He needs to make it work for them. And that's what a good manager would do. And I'm not saying Arteta won't be a good manager. He has all the attributes. And if you hear the likes of Pep and Pochettino and stuff and what they've said about him, he has the makings of a great manager. But he's so stubborn. His subs, I can't disagree. His subs are done at the wrong time. We're all crying out. The other night we're crying out for Martinelli to come on. He should have been on 15, 20 minutes earlier. In fact, he probably should have been on from the start of the game, and Gervinho should have been sat on the bench. But, it's one of them things, and we've talked about it before. Can you drop Aubameyang? He's our talisman. He's our highest paid player. He's our captain. Reality is, yes, we can and we have to. If he's going to put in performances like he has been, he needs to be dropped. Put Martinelli in, who's buzzing, has loads of energy. I would disagree in terms of the man management. I think, he's Martinelli, he tried to bring him back in. He got injured in a warm-up. He's looked a bit fragile. So I'm not necessarily sure his man management has been bad in that sense. And it's the same with somebody else said about, Saliba being sent off and not playing. I think Saliba needed that, and if everybody talked and raves about how well Saliba's done at Nice, if you actually look at the start of his time in Nice, they didn't actually win that many games. Yes, he played okay, but they weren't winning many games, so they were still conceding. I think they're starting to play better, and he's having a bigger impact. And from what I understand, they're already talking about trying to extend his contract at Arsenal, so I don't think there's any risk of them wanting to sell him. So, for me, he needs to do one of those two things. If he's so stubborn that he's not going to change his ways or give these other players a chance over the next few games, then maybe he isn't the right man. If he changes things up and for the next few games, and then a big overhaul in the summer and gets the players he wants, and he hasn't had a proper preseason. Give him a proper preseason. But if come Christmas we're still playing like this and it's still the same, he has to go.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to defend him in any way. And as I say, I'm struggling after seeing that lack of passion, but I think that comes down to, they know the league season's over. There's nothing to play for. And, they were backing out of 50-50 challenges.
Yeah.
So were they doing that because they didn't want to risk getting injured? Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. So at the minute, I'm still stick with him. But things need to change. So just a few more comments before we go on to the squad then. GK, I wanted Arteta. I think he's improved the team when it comes to structure, but I get the fans as well. They say they want him out, but I was expecting around 7th or 8th place. Yeah. I'll just say I wanted Allegri. Whenever Emery went, I wanted Allegri. That was my first choice. When Arteta came in, I wasn't particularly happy. I make no bones about it. I don't try to hide the fact I didn't want Arteta. I didn't, but I'm trying my best to get behind him and give him his chance. Although Arteta has a worse win rate than Emery, he improved us defensively and structured. Yeah, he has, but then again, we haven't kept a clean sheet since January, and we've conceded 6 in the last 2 league games. So, are they falling back into old ways? Under Emery, we were conceding some thrashings. Yeah, I said the same on the back three. I think that's where he went wrong. The team isn't technically good enough when you have to rely on Saka and ESR to carry them. Yeah. Ryan, give him the money to buy the players he wants, then judge him. He done well considering the current crop of players, but he needs to improve in areas which comes in time. Yeah. Okay. Fans talking but we finished 8th last season. Now we're 10th. We only finished 2 points off 10th last season. Yeah.
I think they'll definitely be. I think they'll definitely be looking at it though, because I think, regardless of the fact, I'm still very much Arteta in, but at the same time, I don't believe that we are the 10th best team in the league. And when I looked at the league today before this show started, we're 10th, 10 points off 4th place. And regardless of what we know Arsenal is a big issue. We need better players. We need investment. He needs a pre-season. The games are coming thick and fast, but ultimately, we're not the 10th best team in the league. So I don't think that the prospect of him losing his job is far off. Like you said, I think come the start of next season, if there is investment in the summer, and come to Christmas, we're still not performing consistently. I think it could be time up for him.
Buster, also this COVID time to play football and a lot of games crammed in doesn't help. It doesn't, but at the same time, every other club's in the exact same position. And that's another thing as well. Teams around us have improved. So it's not like they're playing the same squads.
Yeah.
They've all improved. They've all got new players coming in as well. These players have individually cost us. Yeah, they have. So, I mean, all that said, I think the big crux now is really, you can blame it on the Cronkies, you can blame it on the manager. There's elements of both in there. But for me, the biggest issue we have is this squad. Now, a few weeks ago, we ran a poll, back at the end of February, start of March, we ran a poll, and we had planned to do a squad review show, where we would go through each member of the squad and say whether we felt they should stay, whether they should be sold, whether they should go out on loan. And the initial plan was we were going to do that back then and then review it again at the end of the season. I want to talk about it now because that performance the other night just highlighted how bad this squad is and how badly we need to shake things up. So we'll try to condense it a little. Obviously, we'll run through the entire squad as quickly as we can. You guys, again, have your say on these players. Tell us what you think. We will not try to spend too long. If there's a particular player you want to talk about, G, far away. I don't mind. But we'll try not to spend too long on each of them. So we'll start off with the keepers. Leno, Matt Ryan, and Runnerson. Just to let you know, what you guys said on the polls was 94% said keep Leno, 81% said to sign Matt Ryan on a permanent basis, and 58% was the highest on Runnerson to sell him. So that was the sort of decision. Keep Leno, sign Matt Ryan, and sell Runnerson. What do you think, G?
Yeah, Runnerson for me has got to go. I don't particularly see him as having a future at Arsenal. I believe that he was just a keeper we signed, given we need an extra body in there. But to be fair, might not have seen as much of him to kind of make a fair judgment. But for me, Renardson's got to go. I'd keep Leno, and I would also sign Matty Ryan on a free transfer at the end of the season. I can't see us with this current crop of players prioritising buying a better goalkeeper. And I think with Leno, with a better defence in front of him, I think he's still a top goalkeeper. So Runnerson sell, Matty Ryan sign as a deputy goalkeeper, and Leno keep.
Okay. 100% Runnerson, got to go. I mean, he was brought in, I think initially he was brought in as third choice, but they didn't get the second choice goalkeeper at the time, which I believe was David Rea, who they were trying to sign. Robert Sanchez from Brighton, I believe, is a good shout. I said the other night, because Damien actually asked us this question at the end of the preview show, I don't believe Leno is the world-class goalkeeper we believed we were signing. And I think we need to upgrade on him. I'd be happy enough to keep him as a backup. Whether he'd want to stay as a number 2, I don't know. If he doesn't, cash in on him, sign a better keeper. He struggles with the ball at his feet. He's not good with the ball at his feet, and he palms away too many crosses and stuff. He doesn't seem confident. He's not the sort of keeper who comes out and catches the ball. And that's the sort of keeper I personally prefer, is someone who comes out, commands his area, comes out for crosses, catches the ball, gets the game going again quickly. He's not that keeper, and I think we can upgrade on him. So if we get an offer for him, I'd sell him. I'd probably sign Matt Ryan, and sign probably probably Robert Sanchez, is the option. Fans didn't even give him a chance. We're over the top. I'm not backing him. Okay. Runnerson isn't needed. We have young keepers in Hine and yeah, absolutely. Backing their boy Emery. Yeah. Still going on about the Emery and Arteta there. Absolutely. Robert Sanchez is a massive upgrade on Leno. Yeah. I mean, I can't say any differently from that, So for me, that would be my personal opinion. Defenders. So we did this in two groups, so we'll go through them in two groups very quickly. First up was Hector Bellerin. The overwhelming majority said 81% said sell. Cedric, 85% to keep. Tierney, 99% to keep. I mean, clear cut that one. And David Luiz was slightly different, and they offered more options in it. There was offer him a new contract because he's out of contract at the end of the season. Let him go, give him a player coach role, or give him a coach job. And 41% said let him go, which was the highest of those options. So again, G, what's your thoughts?
For me, it's very simple. Bellerin, I'd sell. He's got market value. He's not the player he once was, in my opinion, for Arsenal. So I'd sell him to the highest bidder. I think we could easily get 25, 30 million plus for him. Cedric I'd keep. I don't think he's a first team player, but I do think he has proven to be quite a useful player who can play both on the right and the left. And at the end of the day, we need other fullbacks who can come in and deputise. Tierney, 100% keep. He's probably one of about 5 or 6 players that probably walk into that side and will continue to walk into that side. And David Luiz, I'd let go. Contract's over. See you later.
Yeah, okay. I mean, pretty much the same. Bellerin, I've said for a long time I don't rate Bellerin. I think I would have got rid of him last summer. I think, again, at the time, it was a case of we kept him because we needed other players, and there wasn't an awful lot of options. I think from what I'm hearing, the club are quite open to let him go this summer. And you've seen, I mean, he hasn't played now in, I think, 6 or 7 games since he last played. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's quite obvious he's on his way out. He isn't the player he used to be. Cedric, and potentially, then he can play at left back, but I do think we need a backup left back. Tierney, it's a no-brainer. You keep Tierney and you hand him the captain's armband, for me personally. Although that said, he is injury prone, and do you kind of want someone who's going to be there the whole season, without having to worry? I mean, it looks like potentially he could be out for the rest of the season now. So it's a difficult one. And David Luiz, much as David Luiz has probably been one of our best centre backs, and certainly when he plays with Gabriel this season, and he has that ability, that long range of pass, he still has that mistake in him. And for me, I think we need the upgrade on him. I think we bring Saliba back, we bring in another couple of defenders, and have better options. And yeah, that's it. So just the comments on these guys: Hakimi or Baku to replace Bellerin is a must. Cedric is a decent backup. Yeah, I mean, Hakimi looks a good player. My only concern with a lot of these players we're linked to is the fact that they're non-homegrown, and at some point we're going to have to bring in some homegrown players, which is why, Hakimi, but for me, probably still I'd go for Max Aarons. He's the guy I'd want the right back. I get the fans as well. He said they want better than Leno. I just think he's last of our worries. Liverpool. Correct. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think Leno, you could get another season out of him if it came to it. There are certainly other areas of this team we need to fix first. But if what I'm saying is, if the right offer comes in to get rid of him this summer, I would do it, and I would go for the likes of Sanchez. We're too reliant on our defensive portion of players, and for them to save, so if I can show put them okay. This defense win games. We don't have good forwards, ball carriers, dribblers. Are you talking about our forwards or our ball playing defenders? Defenders that can run with the ball. Midfielders poor. Yeah, we'll come on to those in a sec. Bertrand on a free as backup left back. Yeah, I mean, that's a good shout. I don't know if he's going to sign a new contract with Southampton, but I would take him as a backup to Tierney. What about you, G? Would you take him?
Yeah, I would, because I think if we're keeping Tierney, so Tierney is going to play the vast majority of the games as and when he's fit. So really and truly, whoever's playing, whoever the other left back we do have in the squad come the end of the summer, it is a backup. It's somebody to push Tierney to play when Tierney's not fit or when we want to give him a rest. So he's got a lot of Premier League experience, and I think he'd be a decent potential backup. Yeah.
Okay. None of our right backs are good enough. Hakimi, I don't want either. He can't defend. Yeah, I mean, there is that argument, but he is phenomenal going forward. But yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. He isn't the greatest defender in the world, and again, it's part of the reason why I plumped for Max Aarons. Who carries the ball in this team apart from Saka and Tierney? They were the same main guys last season who did all our creating. Yeah, absolutely. Fasaro King, welcome to the show. Gabriel needs to buckle up more with the defense. Okay. Well, all right, let's move on to the next set of four defenders, who were Rob Holding, Callum Chambers, Gabriel, and Pablo Mari. So again, at the time of this poll, 78% said to keep Rob Holding. Callum Chambers was split on 44% to keep and 44% to sell. Gabriel, 94% keep. Pablo Mari, 91% keep. I mean, for me, I'll go first this time, G. Pablo Mari, yeah. I mean, I think he's actually a really good player. He lacks a bit of pace, but I think, defensively awareness, I think he's actually very good. And as somebody else had said, earlier on, I'd like to see him and Gabriel play together and see what they could do. Gabriel, again, a no-brainer. I think he's one for the future. I think potential vice-captain, future captain of the club as well. You've seen how well he stands up. He's a good player. Callum Chambers, for me, sell him. He's been at the club for this long. He's had so many loan spells. He gets injured easily, and he's done nothing in the years that he's been here. So get some money for him, get him out. Rob Holding isn't good enough to be a starter. Is he good enough to be a backup squad player? Arguably, yes. He's turned up in some big games for us. He's, a couple of FA Cup finals where he's turned up well. But I don't know. Again, if we got a decent offer for him, I'd probably let him go. I have no real sentiment to him. And this is the thing. There are so many Arsenal fans with so much sentiment to these players. They're keeping them because, they've been at the club for years and stuff. No, they're just not good enough. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Your thoughts, Jay?
Yeah, I think, again, with these ones, I think it's quite simple. I don't know if I'm finding it really easy because of that last performance, but for me, Chambers, I would put him up for sale. I think he's got, decent market value. From what I've seen, I can't really see him being a first-team centre-back. I can't really see him being a first-team right-back. So for me, I'd sell him. Holding, he's just signed a new contract. I'd possibly keep him, maybe as a squad player. But again, like you said, I think if an offer came in for him, I'd sell him as well. So, in a nutshell, I'd be open to selling both Chambers and Holding in the summer. Gabriel for me is a no-brainer. I think he's come in with a big price tag. He's got huge potential, huge ability, even at a young age. He's got all the attributes I keep saying to make a really, really good Premier League centre back. So I definitely keep him. And Mari, who I wasn't really too sure about. From what I've seen, I've been impressed. I wouldn't say he has or has similar attributes to Gabriel, but he reads the game really well. He's really composed, and anytime I've seen him play, he looks really comfortable. So I'd sell Chambers, I'd sell Holding, I'd keep Gabriel, and I'd keep Mari.
Okay. Couple of comments, then we'll move on to the start of the midfield. Ryan, Holding can go, keep Chambers because he's decent and versatile. Mari and Gabriel should stay. Fair enough. Title to your opinion, Ryan. It's basically the opposite way around on Holding and Chambers, but Mari and Gabriel should stay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. GK, but fans saying two left footers can't play together. LOL balance. It's getting boring. Absolutely, it is. It is getting boring. Let's put them in the team and see what they can do. The Italian teams, when they used to be good, had left footers galore in defence. Yeah, they did, but I mean, Italians could defend, and that's their game was built on defence first, and that's part of the reason why I wanted Allegri, because he was Italian and had that mentality of sorting out the defence. Buster, Holding is nowhere near it. Has had a few good games, but I don't start in goal for Arsenal. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So on the midfield, we had Saka was classed as part of the midfield, according to Arsenal's website, and keep was 87%, sell was 12%, and loan was 2%. I can only imagine the people who said loan were just people trolling. Emil Smith-Rowe, 92% said keep. Danny Ceballos, 69% said send back. And Xhaka, 61% said keep. 39% said sell. Okay. I mean, Saka and Smith-Rowe, no-brainers. I don't even think we need to talk about them. You know, we keep them. Okay. Honest truth. Big offer Saka, I'd sell. Why? Tell us why. You don't think Arteta fixed the structure a bit, though? Yes, I do think he fixed the defence a bit. That's why I'm saying. That's why it's not as big a thing now to have Allegri come in. So 50 million up, I'd sell. Okay.
No chance. Not for me.
For me, I wouldn't. I think we need to build the team around Saka, personally. Smith-Rowe as well. You know, I've said for years Smith-Rowe is going to be a cracking player, and you know he's proved that now since he's got his chance. Danny Ceballos, yeah. I mean, I see no reason to keep Danny Ceballos. He's done nothing this season. He had a good end of last season, but no, he's just getting worse. For me, the big debate is on this guy, Granit Xhaka. Now, you know, and anybody who's watched our streams before know, I don't like Xhaka. I will never forgive him for what he did that night against Crystal Palace. I said it earlier on, you know, yes, we missed him against Liverpool, but that's more an indictment of how poor the rest of our midfield choices are. For me, I'd sell him. I honestly sell him. The right offer comes, not even if the right offer comes in, if any offer comes in, sell him. There are better players. There are far better players, and we need to upgrade our midfield massively. I think he is going to be sold. I just have that feeling. But so that's it. I mean, for me, he's got to go. If we want to be serious contenders for the Premier League title, we're not going to win it with Granit Xhaka in the centre of our midfield. We're not. G?
Yeah, no, I agree with kind of everything you said with regards to those four players. We don't need to talk about Saka. We don't need to talk about Smith-Rowe. You know, both have been, you know, two of our best players for sure. So I wouldn't sell just to kind of keep, you know, obviously to kind of keep the conversation interesting. But I wouldn't sell Saka at any price, nor Smith-Rowe. I think they are two of our best players. They're young. They've got years ahead of them. And we really need to be building a team around the two of them and not selling them, in my opinion. We've got enough players we need to replace. So for the players that we don't need to replace, we don't need to give ourselves a bigger job than we already have. So I'd keep Saka and Smith Rowe, no brainers for me. Ceballos, I'd send him straight back to Madrid. He cannot go back to Madrid quick enough. There have been times when he has played well, particularly I think it was after the COVID break in the Premier League. He came back and, for those games until the end of the season, he was really, really good. But he seems to be getting worse. And his performances in recent weeks, I just can't legitimize us actually spending 20, 30 million to acquire his services. He's not good enough for me. And Xhaka, this is where the debate really is. But I've often been quite unsure about this one. But I think it's because of how poor the actual squad is. Because when I actually think about, our midfield and the midfield we need to pursue the Premier League and get back into the Champions League, for me, he isn't good enough. So for me, I'd keep Saka, I'd keep Smith Rowe, I'd send Ceballos back to Madrid, and I'd sell Xhaka. I think we could easily get the money we paid for him. And because of that, we could invest that for me in players, even within the Premier League, that would actually suit our side better and are actually probably better players for the position he plays. So, yeah, keep Saka, keep Smith Rowe, send Ceballos back and sell Xhaka.
Okay. So, Ryan, Saka's 150 million player. Easy. Anything under that is a no. I understand why you say we should build a team around Saka. I just don't think he'll be that elite goal scoring forward we expect him to be.
He's 19, man.
Saka had the most. What?
I said he's 19.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that now. Saka had the most shooting chances out of the team, and I think that clinicalness will come with later on. I don't see his future as a forward. I see him as a 10 or an 8. It's funny you should say this, just because after we went off on Friday night, we had this conversation between me and G and Damien about our front three. And, we were talking about being able to interchange and how the likes of Pepe, Aubameyang can play up front as well as playing out in the wings, whereas Lacazette can't. He has to play as that out and out centre forward or potentially drop back a little and play as a number 10. And Damien said, what about Saka playing up front? And for me, straight away, it was no. And I said the same thing. He doesn't score enough goals. It may come later on, but at the minute, he's not scoring enough goals. I believe he's best on the wing. I do. But I don't see him as an out-and-out goal scorer, so I get exactly what you're saying. He's not clinical enough. I think that will come. He will get there. Okay. What's your thoughts on any potentially getting a new contract? We'll touch on that in a wee second. So many midfielders better than Ceballos that are younger and cheaper. Absolutely. Eddie loves giving these duds extensions to Luis, give away 7 goals for mistakes last season, and they gave him a deal, and now they're talking another year. Yeah, I think the reason they give Luis the extension last year was because they wanted his experience around the likes of Gabriel and stuff coming in. Arguably, you could say the same thing because we need more new recruits in defence this summer, but I would still personally let him go. The Elneny one, we're going to come on to him in a wee second, but my understanding is that is not so much about actually giving him a new contract. It's protecting his value because he will more than likely be away this summer. He wants to have regular first-team football, and he's not going to get it at Arsenal. Which leads us on to the next part of the midfield, which was Partey, Odegaard, and Elneny. Partey, 92% of the fans said keep. Odegaard, 58% said sign. And Elneny, 74% said sell. These are obviously the top results from the polls. And yeah, I can't argue with any of them. Partey, keep, absolutely. Odegaard, yeah, I would 100% sign him. I think he's been good, and I think he's only going to get better once he gets a run of games. And Elneny, sell. Absolutely.
Yep.
He's just a waste of space, quite frankly. I have nothing more to say on him. Okay.
Yeah, Thomas definitely keep. Like I said, he's a top draw player. I watched him several times for Atletico Madrid, in La Liga and the Champions League. He's had a tough season, injuries, transitioning into a new league, but his class is there. You can see it when he's on the ball. So I'd keep him. No brainer for me. Odegaard, I'd love to keep. I think we've seen enough to know that he is a top player. If you know enough about him, you'll know. He is a quality offensive player. Question that we can actually afford him. I think a lot of it depends on what's going on in Madrid. He doesn't seem to get on with Zidane, but I think the plan or the quotes coming out of Madrid is that they very much see him as part of their future. So if we can get him, brilliant. Skeptical as to whether we will. And then with El Nene, I think he's probably one of the only players that I've made it very clear in our previous shows that I'm not massively fond of. When I look at El Nene, I think he would struggle to actually start in any of the Premier League teams in the Premier League. I just don't see it. There's been on occasions where he's had really good games, but anyone can play a good game. We need players that are going to play consistently across 38 games or so, to even have a chance of winning the title. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much. It would be keep Thomas, sign Odegaard, sell Nene. I could sit here and talk for hours about the reasons or why we should sell El Nene.
Yeah, no, I think we just need to be straight to the point.
Yeah.
Buster, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is better than most of our centre midfield. And Ryan saying that's a very debatable comment. It is. Yeah, it's possible that he is. Again, though, that doesn't say an awful lot about the quality of our midfield. And we're not going to win the league with Ainsley Maitland-Niles playing centre mid. We're not. No. It's not even a conversation I want to have. You're right, GK. Give our younger players a go. What's there to lose? Yeah. If GK said that in there, I missed that somewhere. But I've been saying the same thing. For the next 8 games, bring Aziz in, put him next to Partey, and see what happens. Give him his chance. He played well against Chelsea. Ryan, who's ahead of him except Partey? I think I have a soft spot for the youngsters because I understand their youth and experience. But fans put such a high expectation on them, they'll never develop. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. But that's why, with 8 games left, now is the time when there's nothing to play for in the league. Give them 8 games, give them that chance to experience proper first-team football and see how they do. And you could argue, just by the way, on that point, it's the exact same thing for Saliba. If Saliba had come back or had been playing and he made mistakes like he has made at Nice, our fans wouldn't have forgiven him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather loan out most of these youngsters and see how they develop over a season on loans. Fans don't give youngsters to develop like a Mbappe level 29. Yeah. Fans love a youth player. One game hit them. The next game they don't become the player they hype them up to be. Yeah, I mean, that's it. They don't give them a chance. We have a very fickle fan base. We really do. And, they're demanding instant success, which we're not going to get. And our fan base is very much split of those who are demanding instant success and those who understand that it's going to take time to build the squad. It's going to take another 2 or 3 windows before we are truly competing for the Premier League title. Xhaka is ahead of him, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles isn't what we want or need. Okay, absolutely. Right, let's move on to forwards, and this is where it may get a bit contentious with some of these. So first up, we have Willian, Lacazette, Pepe, and Reece Nelson. Willian, the overwhelming majority at the time, said 74% said sell. Now, albeit at that point he was going through that really bad spell, he has improved since then. Personally, I'd still sell him if we could get any money for him. I just don't see the point in having him. He's not even playing at the minute. Lacazette, 64% said sell. Pepe, 87% said keep. And Reece Nelson was funny one. 42% said sell, 36% send them out in loan. I'll let you go first. So
Yeah.
Willian, Laka, Pepe, and Reece Nelson.
You know what? Like I said, I don't know whether it's because it's the back of that Liverpool game, but for me, everything just kind of seems clear. I don't think Willian is good enough. I think we should sell Willian if we can get any money for him. I cannot. I just can't see him. Whether I can't see him, I just don't think he's good enough to be a first team player for Arsenal. So I'd sell Willian. Lacazette, despite him playing quite well recently, obviously, you know, having a good season in comparison to some of our other forwards, I'd still sell him. He's 29, 30, and he's got 1 year left on his contract. And for me, I just don't want to be in the same position again where, you know, a player's playing well, he signs a contract, and then all of a sudden he stops playing. I think that there are better options out there that, you know, are more clinical, that could get more goals. For me, as much as I was happy when we signed Lacazette, from what I've seen, Lacazette is not going to be the striker that's going to lead us to winning the Premier League title. He's not going to get 20, 25 goals in a Premier League season. He's not consistent enough. He's not clinical enough. And at this point in his career and the direction I want to see Arsenal moving in, I'd sell Lacazette. Reece Nelson, I just don't see it. I think he's got lots of potential. I just can't see him developing into the player that we would hope that he would develop into, or the player that we need him to develop into. Not to say he's a good player, not to say he's not a good player, but again, I think he's got some good market value, and I'd sell him. The only one out of the four I'd keep is Pepe. And I think the main reasons why I keep Pepe is because regardless of how inconsistent he's been, he was a huge signing. We would get nothing close to 72 million at this stage. But also, I do think he's a top player. I was very excited when we signed him, and I do believe with time he could live up to the expectations that we saw and the way he performed at Lille. So for me, I would sell Willian, I'd sell Lacazette, I'd sell Reece Nelson, and I'd keep Pepe.
Okay. For me, Willian, I've already said, yeah, I mean, if we get an offer for him, sell him. I just, yeah, he's our highest assist provider this season on 7, but, you know, he's got those in sort of 4 or 5 games. It's not like he's been consistently getting assist after assist after assist. And he's only started playing reasonably, not even playing well, but only started playing reasonably over the last sort of 6 games that he's played. And he's not getting in the team again at the minute. Lacazette, I mean, yeah, he's good at holding the ball up, but he's not getting the goals that we need him to get. He's never got 15 league goals in a season. And for a 40-odd million pound striker, you expect more. I think there are younger, better options. And as you say, we don't want to get tied into another contract with a player who's basically coming to the end of his career. And I think now is the time to cash in on him. Reece Nelson, for me, he's got all the tricks. He's quick. He's dynamic. He will run at the defense, but he lacks an end product, and that's a problem. You know, it really is. And I don't think he's going to make it at this level. I think mid to lower end of the Premier League, yeah, but for me, I'd sell him personally. Pepe's a debatable one because, you know, he's 2 seasons, and actually if you look at his stats over the 2 seasons in terms of goals and assists, they're not that bad. It's the 72 million pound price tag that's the problem. You know, everybody's looking at it going, 72 million pound, he should be getting lighting up the Premier League and stuff, and you know, you could argue he should be, but his stats on average aren't bad, but he's not getting the space that he needs. You know, Pepe is a space player. He needs to have more room to run into, and he's just not getting that. And until things change, you know, we're not going to be able to give him that space. And I don't know if an offer comes in we're being linked with a lot of wingers. If you look at the players we're linked with, we are being linked with a lot of wingers. So maybe it's time to cut our losses and let him go. I just don't know, is the honest answer. I would probably want to keep him, for one more season. And if he just, if it's not right at the end of next season, then sell him. But it's hard to know. Okay, quick comments on these ones. Flying in here. Okay. Willian, 3-year deal. They expected him to be here till he's 35, winning the Champions League. What's going on? Eddie, I don't trust this guy. I don't know if it's him or Arteta wanting these players. Yeah, I mean, it came out in the summer that it was Arteta and Eddie both wanted Willian. I don't know. I don't know how much of that was Eddie wanted him, how much of it was Arteta. I don't understand why Arteta would want them. He doesn't seem to suit what Arteta wants. So I don't get it. Get rid of Willian and play Nelson and get it. Is he in? Yeah, I mean, your boy from Crystal Palace he's at now, isn't he? He came from QPR. Good player. Nelson should have went on loan some seasons ago. Wenger gave him his chance and took it. He rest horribly. Yeah, he has. If Arsenal come in, I'm sure he'd think about it. Okay. Free. I think for 60 million plus. Okay. That's your boy from AC Milan, isn't it?
Yeah, AC Milan player.
Is he on a free?
I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's a free agent in the summer.
Is he on a free at the minute? Nelson, first start back, was back in 2003 years ago. They loaned him out once, which he didn't start. Shock, although he was scoring goals off the bench as a striker. Yeah. Okay. Good point. But imagine, is he playing in a team with a lot more passion? A player his age wants consistent minutes, and that's guaranteed. Okay. He would be quality, but it's unrealistic. Fair enough. All right. Let's move on. Forwards part 2. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is out of contract this season. Okay. Yeah, I would question 60 million on that as well. Okay. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, 85% at the time said keep. Now, again, this was a month and a half ago, so, that may have changed somewhat. Nketiah, 86% said sell, and Martinelli, 90% said keep. Martinelli, for me, is a no-brainer. We keep him. He will be a big star of the future, and for anybody that thinks he's going to leave this summer, he's not. He's not an unhappy player. Nketiah, he's not going to cut it. He's a poacher, and that's not what is going to suit our team. And I mean, the fact that he hasn't played now for a couple of months, I think, sort of shows that Arteta has lost faith in him. Aubameyang is the big one here. Personally, I think if an offer came in, I think I would take it and start again. Aubameyang he's a good goal scorer. Someone said it earlier on. He's a world class goal scorer, but he's not a world class player, and that is true. But he just doesn't contribute anything when he's not scoring. So personally, much as I want them to do well, and I like Aubameyang, and I've made that clear before, I think if an offer comes in, 30 million, we take it. Again, clear those wages off, start again. There are hungry young players out there we could get. There are players that are lighting up, Daka over at Leipzig is scoring plenty of goals. You've got Edouard up at Celtic, who didn't have a great season this year, but has been phenomenal up until then. These are players we should be looking at investing in. G, thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree with you with regard to Martinelli. Martinelli is, I just see him having a really bright future at Arsenal. I think behind the scenes they're working on him, playing as a centre forward, potentially. But he's just one of those players, he's got the potential, he's got the ability, he's got the work ethic. The most important thing is just kind of making sure that he can stay fit and kind of managing his game time. So Martinelli for me is a no-brainer. We keep hold of him. I think the problem is going to be keeping hold of him in the next couple of years. Eddie for me, as much as I know he's got a phenomenal scoring record, in the Arsenal academy, even at international level for the under-21s. He is the all-time top goal scorer. He obviously knows where the net is, but I don't think he suits the way Arsenal play. There's not much to his game other than scoring goals, and from what I've seen, I don't know whether it's because of his kind of lack of physical ability, like his lack of strength, but I feel as though he's had a chance this season. I feel as though Arteta has put faith in him at different parts of the season. He's played, and for me, just consistently, he hasn't performed. And I don't think he's good enough for Arsenal, so I'd sell him. I think we can get at least 15, 20 million for him, given his goal scoring record at a youth level and the fact that he has played in and out of the first team. And Aubameyang, I thought, at the end of last season, when there was all this, controversial talk about, sign the contract, sign the thing. I'm going to be honest. I was absolutely desperate for Aubameyang to sign his new contract. I thought to myself, we need him to sign his contract because we need to show ambition. And this will be a clear statement of ambition if we can manage to keep our best player at the time. I thought if we lost him, it would just be clear. It would just send the wrong message. Now, having said that, his performances this season have just been bad. It's been a complete contrast to what it was last season. And I think I have to agree with your comment and what somebody originally said about Aubameyang being a world-class finisher, but he's not a world-class player. I'd say I wouldn't even say he's anywhere near the category of a world-class player in terms of playing ability. I think for the large part of this season, he's been pretty average. So although on his day, he's a world-class player, and not just on his day, throughout his career, he's been a consistent world-class scorer. He's scored goals every single team he's been to. But at the end of the day, he is 31. We pay him £350,000 a week, and he's our captain, he's our talisman, and he's not scoring goals. So if he's not scoring goals, we're all sitting there, kind of questioning, whether or not he should be in the team, whether or not he should be dropped or benched or the captaincy taken away from him. And so for me, if a good offer comes in for Aubameyang this summer, it's going to be considered. I'd consider it. I'd potentially look at potentially moving him on. So I think Martinelli is a clear cut. We've got to keep him. I think Eddie is clear cut. We've got to sell. But with Aubameyang, I'd be happy if he stayed. I wouldn't be distraught if he left. It's one of those.
I think what's very clear is he's not going to be captain next season.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, only a few more to go, which are the players out on loan, and we'll run through them very, very quickly. But we'll a couple of wee comments here. First of all, Morelos is a must-buy from Rangers. Absolute bully. He is, yeah. But as Ryan rightly points out, he's hot-headed. Don't need a striker getting sent off. Do you think Morelos could cut it in the Premier League? And so was Ian Wright, but he scored goals for us. Very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw this one at you. Obviously, if you know your Scottish football and you watch Rangers, Hadji. Yeah, Hadji. So, on to the players on loan. And again, we can run through these quite quick. And I'm not going to break them down the way we have been doing. Kalashnik, sell.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can disagree with that one. I do not know anybody who can give me an argument to keep Kalashnik.
Nah.
Mavropanos.
Keep, in my opinion.
Keep. Bring him back. Yep. He seems to have done well for Stuttgart. I think maybe bring him back, give him a chance.
Yeah, I think for me, he's got to be given a chance in the first team or in and around the first team, and then we can make a decision. So I'd keep him.
Yeah. William Saliba.
Keep.
Again, same thing. I think he's now coming into his own in Nice. I think, as I said earlier on, people saying about how he had this great start. he was still making mistakes. I think he's starting to really, take effect now there for them. I would definitely bring him back and give him some game time next season. I don't know that necessarily he starts every game, but I do want to see him. Okay. Torreira?
So,
yeah, I'm the same. And we talked about this the other night. He wants to go back to Argentina now.
yeah.
Or at least that way he's closer to Uruguay to his family.
Yeah. I think it's an easy one because I think even if any of us had an opinion to keep him, I think, in terms of the personal issues he's had and him wanting to return, to be closer to his family, I think it's pretty, pretty cut, it's done.
Okay.
He wants to leave.
Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Again, the majority were sell him. For me, sell him. He doesn't want to play right back, which I think is where he potentially could have had a future. He's determined he's going to play in centre midfield. He's not good enough to be a centre midfield at Arsenal. So
yeah, I'd sell him. I agree.
Joe Willock. Personally, he's not good enough to be the number 10, and that's where he wants to play. So again, sell him.
Yeah, I'd sell him. Yeah, I'd sell him. I think we're really at a point now where it's like we kind of have to put sentiment aside, and we've just got to be blatantly, openly honest about the quality of these players. And for me, it's a sell. We have to sell him.
Yeah, there's new youngsters coming through, and the last one then was Mario Guendouzi. What do you reckon?
Guendouzi's situation is a sad one in a way, because I think when he came into the side, he clearly is a good player. He's got the ability, but I think what's clear is that there is a strained relationship with Arteta, and I think there have been issues of discipline and attitude even since being on loan. And I think the last thing we need right now is for a player of any age and any ability to come back into the dressing room and cause issues where issues have been resolved. We've got rid of, by the sounds of it, we've got rid of quite a few players who were being quite toxic within the dressing room. Obviously, these are unconfirmed reports, but if we can only go by what's kind of the whispers coming out of the club. So as much as I would love to see Guendouzi come back and actually be in and around the first team, because I think he's a top player, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So he has a high market value. Sell him, bring somebody else in.
So I'm just going through all those 13 players basically we said we'd keep. And that just goes to show what we're talking about, the quality of this squad. It's not good. Massive changes. We actually talked about this when we did it originally, and I think of those 13 players, there was about 6 we actually
that would start. Yeah.
Come back to it a wee sec. Hadji is quality. Only seen him a couple of times though. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player. I think he'd be one to potentially buy. 10.
Ivan Tin, I don't know
who that is.
No, I'm not.
Been hearing about Ivan Toney, unless that's what you're talking about, Buster from Brentford, as he seems decent.
Yep.
Yeah. Ivan Toney is another. Watkins would be a great backup striker. Do you not think he's a starter? Yeah, I never watched him play. Pepe had an insane goal record at Lille, and fans bought into him being this crazy goal scoring forward, which I knew he wasn't and never wanted. I wanted him, but he doesn't get the space that he needs, and he's far better when he gets that bit of space in behind, and that's what he did for Lille. He always had space in behind. They're looking big bucks for 20. Yeah, they are. I think it's about 35 million potentially, and again, that's going to depend on whether Brentford if Brentford come up, he'll not go. He'll stay with them for one season. So that will all depend on Brentford. Brentford seem to know how to find some gems, forwards and Watkins. Yeah. I've watched a lot of Brentford because of David Raya, and I can confirm he lives up to the hype. Yeah. Wow, look at the time. If you have any more questions or comments, drop them in the chat, guys. We'll come back to them in a wee sec. As I say, I mean, for me, it really, that highlights just how poor our squad is. 13 players out of a a squad of 25 and, up to 30 odd in there that we talked about in terms of players on loan and stuff, and we keep 13 of them. It's, and that just shows the job that Arteta has ahead of him. If he is the manager that takes us forward, he needs so many changes. I don't expect us to change 12 players this summer. I don't. I'm realistic. But half of those 12 need to be changed. We need to see 6 or 7 minimum being changed. Just on that, the last one actually on the poll was Arteta himself. And at the time, it was 92% said keep and 8% said sack him. So again, it may have changed slightly, but I'd still say the majority of fans are still saying Arteta in. Give him another window and see how he goes. I've said it. I've had my say. Things have to improve. He has to give some chances to other players now between now and the end of the season in the league. Europa League, I'd love to win it. We have to win it in terms of getting a trophy for our season not to be a complete failure. But with this squad, I wouldn't want to be in the Champions League next year. And that's just a personal opinion. G, any last thoughts?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting show, but also a very long one. Obviously, we've been on the air for about an hour and 45. But yeah, it's a hard one. I think we can all say, and I think there are two arguments here. Obviously, I don't feel as though we are the 10th best team in the league. At the same time, I still think Arteta's done an okay job. I think the big problem, which I think has been emphasized in this show, is that the vast majority of this squad is not good enough. I know that's my opinion. I know that's your opinion. And by the comments, it seems, and obviously the polls, because, we did these polls daily, over the course of about a week or 2 weeks. And the vast majority of fans, sometimes up to 300, 400, 500 fans that voted each time, agree with us. So what's very clear is that the team just is not good enough. And like you said, I don't think we can expect to see half the squad replaced this summer. But I think we all want to see at least 6 or 7, players leave and 6 or 7 top quality players to come in. And I think only at that point will we be able to kind of fairly judge Arteta's performance and the team's performance going into next season, and obviously, up until about Christmas of next season. So I want us to win the Europa League. That's just because I'm an Arsenal fan and I want to see my team win a trophy. At the same time, one could argue that maybe it would kind of paint over the cracks again if we pick up more silverware. And this team is not good enough to play in the Champions League. Let's face it. We're not even consistently performing in the league. So playing in the Champions League would worry me. But nevertheless, I want us to win Europa League. I hope we can, because I think it would at least give us, the fans, a little bit of joy come the end of the season. Because quite frankly, it's been a disappointing season.
Thank you. Okay, there's a few comments there, but we'll come back to them in a wee sec. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watched live. Thank you for your interaction. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and it makes this all so much more entertaining and interesting for us to do. It hasn't been quite as negative and as angry as I thought it was going to be, and I think that's because we have waited a day or two. We've sort of calmed down a little, but yeah, I mean the overriding factor here is the squad's just not good enough. So. Yeah, but like I say, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to our sponsor, as always, The Matchday, www.thematchdayshop.com. Please check out the website and buy some stuff from Dan. He has some fantastic memorabilia on there. G, do you want to run through the socials very quickly before we touch these last few comments?
Yep. So, guys, just kind of echo what Stephen's saying. Thank you for tuning in once again, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on catch up. Comments and discussion points and opinions. Been fantastic seeing them ping through. So thank you to all of you for doing that. It really does make this so much more kind of interactive and more enjoyable. But you can follow us on all our socials. Facebook is Cannon Chatter. Our Instagram is at Cannon_chatter. You can also follow us on our Twitch account, which is Cannon Chatter, as well as our Twitter account, which is at Cannon Chatter. You can follow myself and Stephen on our individual Twitter accounts. Stephen's account is at SB Cannon Chatter, and my account is at G Talks Arsenal. Please do remember to, if you have enjoyed the show, please do remember, it's really important if you can like the videos, like our content, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, turn on the notifications so that you don't miss out on any of our, scheduled shows or upcoming content we've got coming your way. But massive thank you once again. And we just really, thrilled with your support and just look forward to your continued support moving forward, guys.
And share it with your friends as well. Make sure and tell others, get them involved.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if you didn't see our show the other night, you'll see now we are starting to get fans on to do these shows with us. So it will not just always be me and G. Right, let's go back to these last few comments before we end tonight. So where have we got to? Okay, Buster, thank you. Great show, guys. Keep up the great content. Thank you, mate.
Cheers, Buster.
And I know we're going to get Buster on Sunday soon as well. If Arteta doesn't win, because we're not qualifying for Europe in the Europa League, do sack him. I've sort of already touched on this. If he loses to Slavia Prague, I'm going to be really, really torn as to whether I can back him anymore. If we get to the semis or to the final and we lose, I still say give him the summer. But if we go out in the quarterfinals against Slavia Prague, that being said, Slavia Prague are a decent team. They beat Leicester and they beat Rangers in the last 2 rounds. So they're a decent team and we can't underestimate them, but we should be beating them. And if we lose to them, I will struggle to be Arteta in. I really will. But if we get at least to the semis and put up a good show or the final, I would give
huge game.
Summer. Yeah.
Huge game for Arteta.
Same question. What's your ideal summer? G, your ideal summer?
My ideal summer sees at least 6 or 7 players sold, at least 6 or 7 players brought in. I've got some favourites, so I'd love to see. I've made it no secret. I'd love to see Grealish from Villa. I'd love to see Basuma replace Xhaka from Brighton. They're probably the 2 midfield options I'd like to see come in. Potentially Odegaard signed if we can't get Grealish. Other than that, I like the look of Ivan Toney. I think he's worth a punt, but I do think his price tag is going to be a bit crazy, so I'm not too sure if we would go in that direction. But for me, without obviously kind of naming each target, I would definitely say the 2 midfielders who I'd love to see at Arsenal next season is Grealish and Basuma. I think they've got Premier League quality. There'll be none of this transitional season to worry about. They will just kind of come into the team, gel into that midfield almost perfectly. And I think they would propel that midfield to a whole nother level. So, ideal summer. If we could get those 2, I'd be thrilled.
Okay, for me, Max Aarons, get rid of Bellerin, get Max Aarons in. We need at least one more central defender, as well as bringing Saliba back. Possibly 2 central defenders. Basuma, I'd be happy with that. And or Samara, I think he's called from Lille.
Yeah. Samara. No, Samane. I think it's Samane. Is it Samane?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Samane. Good player.
I'm sure you guys know who we're talking about anyway. I like the look of Manor Solomon, who we've been linked with.
Yeah.
Potentially
Shakhtar, right?
Yeah. And then either Edouard or Patson Daka up front.
Yeah.
If we can get those, I think that's the start of a big change. As I've said before, potentially upgrade the keeper. Oh, and a backup left back as well. We do need someone to back up here now.
That's 6 or 7 players already.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the start. Yes,
Mhm.
I'd love to see us keep Odegaard, and potentially the likes of Grealish or someone. But I mean, you're talking big money, so it all
Mm.
depends really how much we are going to be backed. So yeah, there you go. I'm expecting contracts run down and sell no buys. I don't think contracts are going to be run down. What I'm hearing is that they're going to start and renew contracts to keep the value up. You know, give them a year extension, this sort of thing. So if there's, a year left, stick another year on and still try to sell them. It's a risky business doing that, but we'll see what happens. Because I don't expect every player will want to be signed.
Mm.
Right? But there's other discussion in the chat as well, guys. Yeah, I mean it's been fantastic tonight. All those comments, blown away by how well you guys have been interacting. It's really, as I said before, it means the world to us to see so many people getting involved and for staying on for so long. We never planned to be this long tonight, but it's kind of gone that way. As well, I talked about this last season and people must have thought I was crazy. Tierney not reliable over a full season. We must find a backup or first choice. Tierney will always be my first choice. I love Tierney. I think he's brilliant. I love his passion. I love his work ethic. I love everything about Tierney. But yes, we need a strong backup for him. And the last one then from Ryan. Prague are a good team, but we should be beating them. We should. Ryan,
Agreed.
if you're still on, just drop your other Twitter handle, the one you just set up for me, and we'll give that a wee shout out for you. I've got an idea somewhere, but we'll be here all night. Yeah, you need to get to bed, young man. You studying to do. Yeah, Ryan, drop that handle in for us so we can give that a wee shout out for you. Some of your threads and some of these players are fantastic. So we'll give him a wee second to type that. I can't believe we've been on so long.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
I get all that, but he's injury prone. He had injuries at Celtic. He is, yeah. I mean, he is, and that's why I say we need a strong backup for him. I wouldn't get rid of him. He needs a good rest, I think, is part of the thing as well. You've deleted it. Fair enough. Well, if you don't follow Ryan, what's your normal one? I think it's just at Ryan Allison on Twitter, guys. If you don't follow Ryan, please do. He does some really good threads on some of the players that we're linked
It's
with.
actually Ryan Allison's Twitter is at Ryan Allison 041. So if you guys want to give Ryan a follow, it's at Ryan Allison 041.
Right, but some my notes that I might be posting great stuff. Tierney top 3 left back in the league, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, listen, thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up there. The last thing I want to say is, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if any of you guys would like to be on the show with us and come on and share your opinions, I know Buster we've got lined up and we're going to have a chat with him soon. But if any of the other guys and Ryan as well, we've talked about maybe Ryan's going to do some stuff, I think, on our transfer shows, maybe in the summer, which will suit better for him because his knowledge of some of these players is phenomenal. It really is. But if anybody else and anybody watching later on, if you've watched the whole way through, thank you so much. And if you just want to jump on at any time, please get in contact with us. We will be back Wednesday night with a much, much shorter show for the preview for the Slavia Prague show. That's it for me. G, you anything else you want to say before I hit the end broadcast button?
No, just massive thank you to the guys who have stayed with us throughout the entirety of the show. Massively appreciate it. And yeah, good night. Have a good evening, guys, and we see you all on Wednesday for the preview to the Slavia Park game. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night, guys.